My fellow Ambazonians, all money plays there. This is Dr. Cho Ayaba. Today is August 4th, and today I'm giving my daily briefing. I want to talk about a couple of issues. First, let me thank our forces in the Bamenda Brigade. The last 3 weeks, I told them clearly that we must exact a price on the enemy for the continuous killing of our soldiers. And I think that from Bui down to Meme the other day and to Mezam last night, we have shown that once we are determined, we can make La Republique pay a price at every level of our resistance. The whole night they were trying to penetrate to pick up their dead bodies. They were shooting the whole night. They were awake, we were awake. And we will stay awake until they fall asleep permanently. Today I want to talk a bit about authority and power, which is critical in liberation. Authority is defined as legitimate power, one with consent, one that has maybe legitimate legislative, judicial, or executive authority. And so, occupation exercises power in our land through different programs and activities, and it's our responsibility to undermine it. I know everything for us looks impossible until some daredevils rise up and make it seem possible. We could never contemplate how we could challenge an authoritarian regime like that in Yaoundé and Cameroon without equally being well armed. That is why none of you even ever believed that I was in Daddy, and some of you deliberately gave Daddy to Biafra. I said he was in Biafra land and not in Ambazonia, because we have been brought up within a system of oppression and repression where it was nearly impossible to do certain things because the regime made it so. They showcase brutality, violence of exceptional proportion. They kidnap for ransom, detain incommunicado, tortured just for you to learn a lesson, so that nobody mustered the courage to mobilize, to assemble, and to oppose, let alone to pick up arms against the system. The system portrayed a facade that we believed in. We believe in the notoriety and brutality of the gendarmes, as though it could go unchallenged. As if that was not enough, they brought in the bees. They dressed them up like warriors in the jungle that could scale mountains and jump over valleys. They did all of these things to instill a sense of permanent fear in us. And so for us, everything looked impossible. I watched a movie once, The Pursuit of Happiness by Will Smith. It's based on a book written by Gartner. The movie was very telling about the life of a young man who had lost everything. He was married with a son. He couldn't pay his rent, he couldn't do anything. And he kept trying his luck at everything, but it didn't work. And he decided he was going to become a stockbroker. And one day he came home and the wife was speaking to him about how bills would be paid. and I told him he wasn't making enough effort. And he told his wife he had found an opportunity. The wife asked him about doing what? And he said becoming a stockbroker. The wife looked at the guy who was struggling in life just to get ends meet. And from nowhere he wants to become a stockbroker. For her, it was impossible. And she said, why not an astronaut? Another supposed impossibility. He just looked at her and kept brushing his teeth. And one day he was walking on the street in front of a stock exchange. He saw a gentleman in a very, very wonderful car, and he was like, how do you do it? And he asked the man what he did for a living. The guy said he was a stockbroker. And Will Smith asked him, what does it take to become a stockbroker? He said, you must be good with money, and you must be good with numbers, and you must be good with people. And Will Smith recited that, good with numbers and good with people. He was good with numbers. Could he be good with people? And he got an appointment for an interview. On the day of the appointment, he was arrested and put in, one day before the appointment, was arrested and put in jail for not being able to pay a parking ticket. He begged the police officers to release him, that he had an interview in the morning. They refused. Very early the next day, somehow they released him. He didn't have a shirt on. He ran from the police station to the interview room. When it was his turn, he walked in without a shirt, and everybody was looking at him. And the manager asked him, why don't you have a shirt? He said he's just coming from the police station. He was detained overnight because he could not pay a parking ticket. And everybody laughed. How broke can you be that you can't pay a parking ticket? But he asked him a simple question. What would you say if you were working in this company and a guy comes in for an interview without a shirt and I hired him? What would you say? That's what the manager asked him. And he said, then the guy must have been wearing a wonderful pair of pants. And everybody laughed. His sense of humor won the admiration of the manager and his team. And his hard work also won the admiration. And he was the only one amongst almost more than 100 persons who came for the interview to be selected. This is out of a true story. The life, I think I've forgotten the first name, of Gartner. Buy the book and read the book. It's a black guy. He became a stockbroker and a millionaire. So the notion of impossibility should not be ours. Don't forget our journey. How we fought off different sets of colonial masters. Our attitude against foreign domination and oppression is not in the last 7 years, not even in the last 61 years. It's historically our attitude. Remember the kingdom of Bafut and Zingraf, Kuva Likenye, the Fonom So, Asonganyi of Lebialem. We have this attitude, rising up against tyrants, tyranny, and systems of deprivation. And so when we institute policies or rules, your first attitude is, oh, laugh at these people. It's impossible. How is it possible they can change number plate? We did. How is it possible they can change taxi color? We have done so. How is it possible this broke man con man from Alabukam could constitute an army that could fight a regime that has warplanes, the bees, man o' war bay, monkey hill, and everything that, all facade that they have shown you in the last 63 years. And we also did. How is it possible that a young guy from Momo, a simple teacher with nothing, could stand somewhere and tell the colonial authorities, by Monday, we will know who control this land? And since that immortal statement, ghost towns have been holding for the past 7 years. So why do you think it's impossible? Why do you think some barbarians from the east, whom we provided a refugee status, to fed them for the past 63 years, should be able to roll tanks in the land where the first democratic transition of power took place and occupy our land? How is that possible? How is that impossible for us to overthrow? And so we will challenge the authority wherever they exercise one. We will legislate against any legislation, any act that they attempt to impose in our land. It's our land. Barren or fertile, desert or oasis, it's our land. It's non-negotiable. And if you see valleys, I see bridges. You see mountains, I see the possibility to scale those mountains. And every time you see tension, negativity, as I told you, I am a stubborn optimist. Don't blink, don't give up, is the attitude of a survival born in a land of great opportunities, but deprived of those opportunities because of our nationality. And so today I tell our people, the authority in our land is vested in our forces and other local authorities that are nationalist authorities. So if you have a case, if there is a case on a land, a dispute over anything, don't take it to the colonial authorities. I don't want to hear you going to any police station, any DO's office to report an Ambazonia because of a dispute. Go to the quarterheads. Go to a nearest chief who is a nationalist who believes in Ambazonian independence, not funds, not traitors like Anguafos. And if they cannot resolve it, they will pass it over to our forces. If they resolve it and they cannot impose a fair kind of justice, our forces will exercise that power. We have prevailed over these barbarians. You may not see it because you are always trying to adjust yourself in prison. Because you are looking for shortcuts, you like comfort in servitude. We must rise up as we have risen to build an army that fights the enemy. We must, when we say no colonial education, we must constitute another form of education that provides knowledge, real knowledge, to our citizens to be able to fend for themselves and dig themselves out of this pit of servitude. And so, my dear people, today, Sunday, 4th of August, I remind you of the journey that you thought could not be made. I remind you when I said we will build an alliance with the Biafrans, you always saw liability. Even when Nigeria had kidnapped our people, you were scared that we should not anger Nigeria, as though Nigeria had amassed men along our borders in the same way Uganda did for Rwanda to save us from slavery. And today, you can see that we have given Nigeria something to worry about. Biafran resistance. Nigeria can no longer be sitting and thinking on how to kill Ambazonians or how to collaborate with Yaoundé to destroy Ambazonian aspirations, because they have Biafra to deal with. And the collaboration is deep. As I told a compatriot this morning, when he had some doubt about certain policies, and I said to him, let me remind you, we got up one morning, the consortium and others gave us an uprising upon which we have built the foundation for liberation. We got up one morning and some brave, crazy men said we should rally on the 26th of May 1990 to launch a political party. We got up one morning, 3 men had called up AAC1 and AAC2. We mobilized and launched the consciousness of Ambazonian resistance. We got up one morning and a mad guy now who sits in London in exile challenged Decree number 84/02 of 1984, renaming the country Cameroon, and he declared that illegal and gave us Ambazonia. Each time we have doubted ourselves, some brave men, women have risen up to give us a platform upon which we can build to launch the next phase. And I said to him, remember this journey. Remember all of these things. And know that one day, just one day, you will get up and your country will be in your hands. And you may not even know what to do with it. And I said, rather than be bewildered, begin to think how you want to govern Mezam. Begin to think how you want to govern Fako. Begin to think how you want to harness the creativity of the Ambazonian people to build an economy that uplifts them from this doldrum to a pedestal of hope. Have faith. It is not faith born out of nothingness. It is faith born out of this history that I have just narrated. If you ever doubt, think about it. How is it possible? One guy now who sits in jail could tell this regime, he had a pen, a voice, a piece of paper, and he told Yaoundé, by Monday, we will know who controls this land. And for 7 years, ghost towns have been successful. Collective resistance against the pain imposed on us. Collective resistance to show all those who are in jail that we aren't giving up. Collective resistance to show families who've lost loved ones that they did not die in vain. That's where your faith should rest. In the things we have done before. The Everest we have scaled. The valleys we have been able to cross. And that from nowhere, out of nothing, no godfathers. We, the ordinary people, from the streets of Victoria to Ndop to Bamenda, have been able to constitute defense forces that have been able to challenge the authority of the enemy in our land. Resistance that have been able for the first time compel an autocratic system to bow down to international pressure and come on the table. With all of these things, how dare you think is impossible? How can you think is impossible? When an uneducated guy rose from the streets of Boya, of Kumba, with a scarred face and inspired all of us. When a guy who has never gone to a marine school could set up the marine force of the Bambala and inspire all of us. When a guy who was planting cocoa in Meme could give us every October 1 a mastery of the demonstration of power that even an elected Ambazonian government from 1954 to 1960 with a budget could never do. Don't blink. The land is our land.